Our next speaker is Ashley Parsons. She is a certified employment support professional. She works with United Ability as a manager of employment services. She has worked for United Ability for 10 years and loves seeing the individuals we serve strive. She hopes to be able to share some valuable information on the milestone process because it's her favorite program. So she loves it.
Thank you, Donna. And so now we have Miss Ashley, and I'm going to try to, hopefully I'm sharing my screen with you. And
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
I can see it.
All right.
Okay, so as previously stated, I'm gonna start with milestone 2. And milestone 2 is when the individual has gotten a job. It starts with the start date would be the first day on the job. So you can also include orientation day on this because most people are paid for their orientation. So that can be your first day. The end date needs to be 3 days on the job. So not 3 calendar days. You know, if they start on a Monday and work Tuesday, Wednesday, then you can have Wednesday as the 3rd day. But if they start on a Monday and they don't go until Thursday and Friday, then Friday would be your 3rd day. So it needs to be 3 working days. The next part of it just talks about the source of the report, and it's job coaching and supported employment. And that one is normally already marked for you. So you shouldn't have to change it unless you have reasons to do so. The next part is work status, and that is going to be competitive employment, and it is also already marked when you receive, the billing from ADRS, the reports. So you shouldn't have to change that one either, unless there is a reason like a homemaker or self-employment. But for the most part, when we're doing milestones, it's competitive employment because we're trying to integrate individuals into the community. The next part is number 1. It says employer. I'm just going to kind of go through an example. This is Jane Doe. So it's not a real person, but I just filled it out as an example so that you could kind of follow along. The employer here is going to be Home Goods, and that's a store that just sells kind of like home decorations and small furniture and those kind of things. Maybe you've been to Home Goods before, but under employer, you just put the basic information, their phone number, their address, if they can be contacted for follow-up. This will be dependent on the individual. So the individual will let you know, if they want you to follow up with their company. But normally in supportive employment, we've already kind of made a relationship. We've probably attended the interview with the individual. So they're going to have a good idea of us as job coaches anyway. So most of the time that is a yes. Number 2 is job. So that just gives the job title. She's an inventory associate. You need to give the hours worked weekly, her supervisor's name. If there's a probational period, we need to put that on there. And does the company offer medical insurance for the employee? So that will mostly depend, if it's a full-time position or part-time position, but that's information that you need to gather. The next part is wages. So are they paid so it's hourly? Are they paid weekly? Are they paid monthly? You just select which one there for wages. The next thing says job duties. And we just put that Jane is an inventory associate in the back of the store. She goes through boxes or packages and puts tags, labels, etc. on them and stacks the cart to be put out on the sales floor. And it says a little bit more, but you kind of go into just like the job duties. The next one is directions to work. And this is going to help if the counselor wanted to go out and see where the person was working, you would put the directions there. Or also, we'll talk a little bit later, but in extended services, the job coach can look back and see how to get to, where it is. So that's the reason for the directions. It can be kind of, you don't have to put we don't always put every street, but major interstates, exits, those kind of things. The next number 4 is reasons for leaving, and ADRS will go ahead and fill out at the bottom. It says new hire. So there's nothing needed for that because we're hopeful they're not leaving. They just got hired. So, okay, we're gonna go to the next section, which is job analysis. The job analysis form, I believe it's 7 pages. This is just where you're going to be, like it says, analyzing the job. So again, we start at the beginning with the company name, where it says staff, that's the individual, and then the date that you're doing this report. An address, phone number, who's the contact, so who's the supervisor, what's their title, is it supervisor, manager, head cashier, these kind of things. And then the next you put the job title again. Following that, you put the current hourly wage. And then the next section said, did a wage change occur since last job screening? So in this case, this is the first report that we're doing for this person, so there was no changes in wage. Then you put the number of hours per week, and you put the months per year. So typically it's going to be 12 months out of the year. But if it's less than that for some reason, you need to give a reason. So that next thing says if less than 12 months. We've had this happen before when people have worked for a university, University of Alabama at Birmingham. They take a little summer break. So if we have people working per se, like in their cafeterias or in their bookstores, that individual might have a month or 2 break. So that would be something to notate there. The next section is just some of the demographics of the company. So what's the number of employees in the company, the number of employees without disabilities, number of other employees with disabilities in the immediate area, number of other employees in this position, and during the same hours. At the bottom of this page, it says, right underneath it, it says, please do not leave any of these unanswered. Oh, you can stop there, Jennifer, that's fine. It says don't leave any of those unanswered. So that's why you'll see that I had unknown written there on some, because some you're not going to know, but you don't want to leave it blank because it specifies that. Okay, so right there at number 1, we're going to talk about the schedule. So does it require weekend work? Is it a part-time job? Is it a full-time job? Is evening work required? And you just select yes or no there. If you have any specifics or comments, you can put that in the box underneath. Number 2 is travel location. So is this on a public transportation route, or is this on a private transportation? And sometimes it can be both. And I also put a little note there that Jane drives herself to and from work. So that was just kind of my comment on her case. Okay, number 3 is strength. So this is judging about the lifting and the carrying having to do with the job. So is it very light? Is it average? Is it heavy? So that's just something you're going to have to analyze as you're job coaching and watching what the individual is doing. So we put here Jane's job requires a small amount of heavy lifting. A part of her job is to lift lamp boxes from the floor to her workstation. So, Number 4 is endurance. So how long do they have to work without a break? Is it greater than 2 hours? Is it less than 2 hours? Is it 3 to 4 hours? Is it greater than 4 hours? And then you want to select that and then make a comment. So we wrote here that her shift typically lasts 5 hours or less. Number 5 is orienting. So this is how they have to orient to the job. Is it a small area? Is it building wide? Is it one room? Is it several rooms? What does their job require of them? So in her case, she is working in the back, but there will be times when she has to go out to the sales floor and stock items. So, we put several rooms there. But it could be several rooms or it could be building wide. You just need to analyze the situation there. The next one is accessibility. And that's fully accessible, or are there accessibility issues? We marked fully accessible here. If there are issues, you definitely want to make comments about what those issues are in the box below. Number 7 is work pace. So how fast does this person need to be? Is it a slower paced job, or are they required to be super fast? At Home Goods, it's kind of an average pace. But I've had somebody working at Amazon before, and they had to work at a quick pace because they had to get so many packages out in an hour. So you're going to be analyzing to see what kind of pace is needed. Okay. Number 8 is appearance requirements. Is grooming of little importance, or do you have to be neat and clean? In her case, Jane has to wear an apron that's provided from the employer. So I put that in the box. You could also say they have a uniform that they wear every day. Maybe it gets laundered in the afternoon. Just kind of specify what the appearance requirement is. Number 9 is communication required. So is there none to minimal communication? Is unclear speech accepted? Do they need keywords or signs? Or is clear speech in sentences needed, or signs needed? So we put keywords and signs needed. It really just depends on the social interaction that you're going to have with maybe customers, or what the requirements of the job are. If it's a receptionist per se, then there might be a bigger need for clear sentences or fluent signs. Okay, number 10 kind of piggybacks off of that, but social interaction. Is social interaction not really required or infrequent, or are they required frequently? So you just analyze the job and go from there. In this one, we put the comment that she primarily works in the back room, but will interact she will interact with the public when she's on the sales floor. So as we all know, when you go into a store, the customer doesn't know if that's a stocking, person or somebody that works in the back unloading and loading, and we're going to ask questions. So, there's a little bit of social interaction that's going to be needed there. And that's also something you can job coach on, if their main priority, if their main job is to be in the back, but they're going to have to come out some, that makes them really anxious or nervous, then a job coach can go out and kind of help them work through that a little bit. It would be the goal anyway. Number 11 is attention to task and perseverance. So are frequent prompts available, or are they infrequent? And is there a high level of supervision or low level of supervision? So this is where you're gonna select which one. We put on there that Jane works in a team, so the prompts are available because it's teamwork. So number 12 is sequencing of job duties. So is it one task required at a time? Is it 2 to 3 tasks in sequence, 4 to 6 tasks required, or 7 or more? So, in this case, it's 2 to 3. She's required to unbox and label items, and then she has to put those items onto a rolling cart, and then she sometimes has to roll them out to the sales floor. So that's about 3 tasks that are required. Number 13 is initiation of work motivation. Do they have to be self-motivated? Are there coworkers there that are available to support them? And also, or is volunteering helpful? So in this case, initiation of work is required. So you just have to analyze the job position and see what you think about that. And also there's always room for comments there as well. Number 14 is daily changes in routine. So is it 7 or more changes in a day? Is it 4 to 6? Is it 2 to 3? Or are there no task changes required in changing their routine? So we put 2 to 3 tasks, and we say her daily routine will usually stay the same, but periodically she might have to switch up tasks. And we can talk some more about that in 3, about how we can provide some more support, some extended support, should her task or her routines change. Okay, number 15, reinforcements available. So are there frequent reinforcements? Are there daily ones? Are there weekly ones? Or is it minimal and it's just a paycheck? So for the most part, as far as reinforcement goes, we find that it's mostly just a paycheck that is there for the reinforcement of they're doing a good job. They're clocking in and out, they're getting paid, that kind of thing. Number 16 is coworker supports available. Are they independent completely? There's no coworkers in this position, or is it low or high or kind of in between? So there's a high potential in this case because she has a great support system. She's kind of working with coworkers to build up some of those natural supports that we want when we have somebody employed in the community. Number 17 is supportive of job accommodations. This goes back to the employer. Are they supportive of having the accommodations? So are they very supportive, indifferent, unknown, negative? What are you kind of feeling when you're in there working with your consumer? So in this case, it was very supportive. But if it's a negative experience, or supportive or negative, there's also a comment, and you can make specifics just depending on what you want to put there. Number 18 is employers' financial requirements. Financial incentives not necessary. Some of the things you can check here are financial incentives not necessary. Was the tax credit or incentive, was that necessary? Or is it a sub minimum wage? Typically, we found that the financial incentive is not necessary, but people will still want to take advantage of that. So I think you would put not necessary if that wasn't the reason behind them hiring that person, but you could also put tax credit as well if they just seemed really interested in getting that tax break. So number 19 is opportunity for career advancements. Okay, so how likely are they going to be able to advance? Is it average? Is it low? Is it most probable? You select which one you think kind of by looking around, talking to other workers there to see if they've got promoted, where they may have started, those kind of things. So number 20 is object discrimination. Do they need to distinguish between work supplies, or must they distinguish between work supplies with an external cue, somebody telling them, or maybe they don't have to distinguish. So in this case, we put must distinguish between work supplies. So that means she needs to know where her workstation is. She needs to know her box cutter. She needs to know her cart, those kind of things. And she needs to know those things without an external cue of somebody saying, here's your stuff, but some places will give that external cue. So just have to look at the job and make that determination. Okay. Number 21 is time. So are time factors not important, or must they tell time to the hour? Must they tell time to the minute, or must they identify breaks, meals, etc.? So in this case, she has to identify her breaks and meals, and etc. So that will just vary with the position, and thus why you are analyzing the job. Number 22 is functional reading. So do they have to read? Do they have to be fluent in their reading, or could they just have like sight words and symbols that they could read? So in her case, it is simple reading because she has to look at the labels and know which label goes on which. So she has to see a lamp and read that the label says, gray lamp or whatever, and put it on the box. So it takes a little bit of simple reading. Number 23 is functional math. So are they going to have to do addition, subtraction, or is it just going to be simple counting, or are there complex computations that they're going to have to do? In this case, there's not any math involved. She just does them until, she just does the work until her shift's over with. She doesn't have to count how many lamps maybe she labeled, or how many tablecloths she labeled. She just has to do it until her shift is done. Okay, the next one is 24. It's street crossing. So is it none because it's a parking lot, you walk right up to the door, or do you have to cross the street? Do you have to cross the street with a light that gives you a signal, or do they have to cross the street without a light? These are things that are mentioned right here. So in this case, she did have to walk across the street. So we put a comment about that. We also put a comment that she's very aware of cars coming when crossing the street, but you just want to put some comment there if you need to. Number 25 is visibility to the public. Are they seen regularly? Are they occasionally visible? Are they not visible at all to the public? So in this case, occasionally visible, because like I said before, sometimes in the back, sometimes in the front. Okay, number 26 is if individual is known, is the job in accordance with the individual's vision, preference, and goals? And in this case, it is, but it could also be a close approximation. So it could be like a stepping stone. Maybe it's not something that she wants to do forever, but she's been out of working for a while and just wanted to kind of get those skills back up. So you just answer that how you see fit according to their preferences and goals. Number 27 is benefits on the job. So do they have sick leave? Do they have medical and health benefits? Do they get employee discounts or free or reduced meals? So in her case, she does get free or reduced meals and employee discounts. And we put in the little comment, on Fridays, they provide a lunch for the employees. So you can also specify if there's anything that's maybe a little different. Okay, number 28 is the level of social contact. So is the employment in an integrated environment? or is it, I'll say, on a shift or position which is isolated? So maybe they do it all by themselves. Kind of like a night janitor, maybe is the example there. Is it or the next one, like, is it integrated on a shift which is relatively isolated? So not completely alone, but relatively. Then, or is it in an integrated environment and position that requires a moderate level of interdependence, tasking, and coworker interaction? Or finally, is it a position that requires a high level of interdependence, tasking, and coworker interaction, and a high level of like contact with business, with the customers, and that kind of thing. So in this case, it fell kind of in the middle. And then you would also, I'm sorry, there's not a comment to go with that. On number 29, you list any job experience skills needed for the position. So in this case, there was no experience needed, but you know, in other case, there might be that stocking experience was required for her to acquire this position. Just kind of depends. And finally, the comments, it says rate of employee turnover, the number of supervisors, the rate of supervisor turnover, was there a written job description? And you just don't want to leave any of these blanks. So you have to look around and see, you know, how many managers she has, how many supervisors. And if you don't know, you just put unknown there. And then what are the absolute don'ts and pet peeves for the managers? I think this one's a good one, just to know, because some of these have been interesting before. But this one particularly, not showing up to work on time or being on your phone during a shift is just unacceptable. And so, you know, a lot of places work on like point systems. And so you could mention that too, you know, if you get so many points, that's a written warning, and they might have to go on to termination. So you definitely want to pay attention to what are the absolute don'ts. Okay. Moving along on environmental characteristics. This is the physical barriers, the temperature extremes. So we put Jane will be working inside during her shifts. She will be on her feet for most of the shifts, so comfortable closed-toe shoes are required. But you might have somebody that works in lawn and garden or something at Home Depot, and you might want to put that the temperature can be either, you know, it can be hot or it could be really cold, it could be rainy. So you just want to put what the environmental characteristics of the job are. And then finally, on this job analysis form, it's additional comments, anything that wasn't covered through the analysis that you think is important to mention, you can put there. All right, the next tab on milestone 2 is the sequence of job duties form. Okay, so you can either select daily or you can select varies day to day. If it's daily, only one sheet is gonna be needed to be filled out. If it varies day to day, you'll want to fill out additional sheets and you will mark the changes on there. So in this case, it's daily. So it's, you know, Monday through Sunday stays the same. So you kind of put the, just kind of what the approximate time, what they're going to be doing at the job duties. So we put like 9:45 clock in, 9:50 report back to the back of the store, 9:50 to 11:50 work on unboxing and labeling inventory, 12 to 1 float on the sales floor, putting out inventory, 1 to 2:45 work on unboxing and labeling inventory, and 2:45 clock out. So, you know, I think it's understood that not every day is going to look exactly like this, but this is just kind of the basics of what the job duties would look like on a daily basis. And like I said before, if she did something completely different on Saturdays, you would want to select Saturday or any other day for that matter. But just as an example, if she did something completely different on Saturday, like maybe she washed the windows or she straightened clothes, then you would fill out another form for that one and mark Saturday on there. Okay, and that completes milestone 2.